Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and welcome back to our series going through the life of Jonah. I am very excited to get back into the series, guys, and we've got so much to talk about. If you need a quick reminder of what we talked about last time, we are talking about the prophet Jonah. Now, Jonah was a man who God had commanded before this point, but that one day, God tells Jonah, I want you to go to Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire, the most evil city in the world, and your sworn enemies. And I want you to go there and preach to them and warn them of my coming judgment, so they may repent and be saved. And Jonah, well, in a word, he says no. He says he's not doing it. And he books it to a ship heading as far away as possible to Tarshish, and he tries to run from God. Now, today we're going to pick up in Jonah's story in chapter 1, because we didn't read far last time. We read in chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, but we're going to be picking up in verse 4 today, and we are going to be pretty much finishing chapter 1 of Jonah today, and we're going to see what happens with Jonah's rebellion, because that's what it is, really, guys. That's what Jonah is doing, and I think we really need to hone in on that truth. Jonah's rebelling. And today we're going to be talking about the nature of rebellion, and we're going to be talking about and clarifying 4 things about rebellion we may not realize. We're also going to talk about the 3 kinds of storms God puts in our lives, because if there's one thing we know happens to Jonah, God throws a storm in his life. And we also have to recognize that God sometimes throws storms in our life, and why we have to endure them. Now, guys, I also want to make another thing very clear. It is very easy for us to look at Jonah, look at what he did, look at all that he chose to do, and call him out and say, Jonah, you are a foolish, foolish man. Why did you rebel against God? Why did you do wrong? Why did you do this? But something we're going to be talking about today, and I hope you guys get this. I really want you to take this away, because it's something I had to take away. We are all like Jonah. And we need to understand what rebellion does to us and the nature of rebellion in order for us to fully comprehend not only what Jonah's going through, but what we may be going through right now, in the past, and in the future. So, if we are ready, we are going to be in Jonah chapter 1, verse 4. So, here we go. We're picking up. Jonah has just gotten on the ship. He's heading out of Joppa. He's heading out of town. He's heading for Tarshish. Okay. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, and we will not perish. Then the sailors said to each other, Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity. They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, Tell us who is responsible for making all this trouble for us. What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you? He answered, I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. This terrified them, and they asked, What have you done? They knew he was running away from the Lord, because he had already told them so. So let's pause there. Let's pause there for a minute. To start off, let's talk for a moment about the first thing about rebellion we need to be aware of, because we're seeing it revealed here. Rebellion has consequences. Rebellion has consequences. If you guys take notes when I do these videos, that's awesome. I'm glad you do. So go ahead and make that a note. The first thing you need to understand about rebellion has consequences. And I feel like I really need to hammer that home, because a lot of people really don't get that. We like to fool ourselves. We like to say, well, it's not that big of a deal. when you sin, when you do wrong. It's not a big deal. It's not hurting anyone. No one's gonna know. It's a very small thing. A little light sin, a little light disobedience. It's not, God's cool with it. But rebellion has consequences. Now, they may not be huge consequences or world-ending. They might only be very small. But they do have consequences, and to pretend otherwise is foolhardy. Now, I'm going to tell you all something else, another thing I want you to keep in mind. Some of us like to look at our rebellion and say, well, as long as it's behind closed doors, as long as no one sees me do it, as long as it's in the comfort of my own home, as long as it's not out in public, it's fine. Do y'all think God can't see it? Do you think for a brief moment God turned off his eyes and didn't see it? No, God knows. You know, and there will be consequences. Maybe not even right then, but in the future. Rebellion has consequences. And one of the consequences that we often run into when we rebel are storms, like the one that Jonah is facing right now. Now, before we go any further, I want to take a moment to talk about the storms that God puts in our lives. There are three kinds of storms that God puts in our lives. We have storms of correction, storms of protection, and storms of progression. Now, the storm that Jonah is currently facing, and the one that we normally face when we rebel, are storms of correction. Now, why do I say storms of correction? Storms of correction are storms or consequences that God puts in our lives that are meant to correct our behavior. You know, it's a funny thing. We often talk about the punishment and wrath of God. We like to think of, the whole angry God. You know, he's just so mad at us. He just wants to punish us for all the bad things we do. But punishment may not be the best way to define it. It might also be defined as correction. You know, when a parent spanks you, when a parent punishes you for misbehavior, it is not because they seek to harm you, it is because they seek to correct your behavior in the future. And that is what God is doing with Jonah. He sent a storm of correction in Jonah's way that is meant to correct his behavior, to redirect him. It is very easy for us because here's the thing, guys. We often like to look at things only from our own perspective, which is why we sin, which is why we rebel, because when we look at a problem or issue from our own perspective, we like to justify what we do. So when the consequences come, we go, "Oh God, you're punishing me and you're destroying me and you're ruining my life." God may be saying, "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to correct you. I'm trying to get you back on the right path. You've strayed from the path I had planned for you. I need to get you back on the right path. I'm not trying to ruin you. I'm not trying to destroy you. I want to help you." And sometimes that help might not feel good. We face storms of correction quite often. Maybe some of you are facing storms of correction right now, or you have faced storms of correction. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But the worst thing you can do in those situations is look at that and say, God is unjustly treating me. He is punishing me too harshly. He is correcting you. And sometimes correction takes a move. You know what I'm saying? The second kind of storm that he puts in our way are storms of protection. Storms of protection. The Lord wants to protect us from problems, and sometimes that means he has to put something in our way to get us out of the way of it. To give you an example of what I mean, let's say that you are on a cruise ship, right? And you are destined to get to this island where you're going to hop off, get to tour around a little bit, get back on the boat. Really excited to go there. But there is a big storm coming, and it is not safe for the cruise ship to go there. So you get an announcement, "Hey guys, there's a storm coming in the way of this. We've got to go around it. We got to avoid this island. We're rerouting and going to another location." Now, you might think to yourself, "Well, that stinks. I was really looking forward to this." But the reality is, that is a storm of protection. God is keeping you away from something really bad. God is helping you avoid something really bad. Sometimes God takes away opportunities or closes doors on us, and we get upset and angry and say, God, why'd you do this? Maybe it's because God is trying to keep us safe from something. Maybe it's because God knows what's down that path and he's saying, nope, don't go there. And the third storm, one that we really don't understand half the time, are storms of progression. Storms of progression. Sometimes God puts storms in our path because he wants to strengthen us. He wants us to grow from them. And that is hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? But I'll give you an example of my own life. Many of you know this. Years ago, I was planning on going on a mission trip to Japan back during the Tokyo Olympics. I was really excited. I was really pumped. But then, many of you may know this, COVID hit and the Olympics were canceled. And I was very upset. I said, why would you cancel this, God? Why would you throw COVID at us? Why would this happen? Don't you want me to go to Japan? Now, that was a storm of protection, on the one hand, because it was protecting me from a COVID situation, but it was also a storm of progression. God knew something I didn't at the time. I wasn't ready for that trip. I was still too in love with the Japanese culture and the chance to finally visit the nation, so I probably would have acted more like a tourist than a missionary. And so God was saying, I need you to grow a bit from this. I need you to adjust your vantage point, adjust your viewpoint, adjust your understanding of me and yourself. Then you can go. God sometimes puts storms in our lives because he wants us to endure and grow and shape ourselves. And a lot of us like to say, well, that seems pretty cruel there, Raven. He has to use a painful or difficult trial for me to get stronger. Do you know how you make weapons in the forge? Do you know how you forge things? It requires intense heat and intense pounding. It requires pressure. Sometimes to be molded into what God wants from you, there needs to be some pressure. So those are the three storms that God puts in our way. Storms of correction, protection, and progression. And right now, Jonah is facing a storm of correction. And this storm is so powerful, it is threatening to tear the ship apart. This is no ordinary storm. Now, the second thing, back on the topic of rebellion, I wanted to take a moment to talk about those storms, but let's get back on the topic of rebellion for a second, because the second thing we need to understand about rebellion is, if you're taking notes, write this down. Rebellion leads to storms that impact others around us. Rebellions impact others around us. Jonah was not alone on this ship. There were others with him. People he didn't even know. If you read it, there were people on the ship who did not know the Lord. They were pagans. It says in verse 5, all the sailors were afraid and each cried out to his own God, and they threw the cargo in the sea to lighten the ship. They were terrified. They were being caught up in this storm too. Their livelihood was being ruined. And you might think, well, that stinks for them. But think about your own rebellion and realize when you rebel, quite often, the people in your life and the people around you get caught up in it too. You may not realize it. It may not be something you're fully cognizant of, but it is true. You get caught up in the storm along with other people. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, your employers. They get caught up in it too. And it hurts them in the process. Do not think that your sin is a victimless crime or that other people will not be involved. It hurts the people in your life. It hurts the people in your life. And if you think, well, they can't be hurt that bad by it, you'd think shame isn't pain. I once used to tell lies to get myself out of trouble. And the lies I didn't think hurt anybody. I mean, what's the big deal? But then when my lies got found out by my dad or my mom, the shame on their eyes, the shame on their faces. They were hurt by the fact that I was so dishonest. Were they directly affected by the lies? Maybe not. But the fact that they saw me wallowing in lies and disobedience hurt them. It hurt them. When you rebel, the storms that come your way impact others around you. The third thing about rebellion, and this is a big one, rebellion makes you numb to the world. Rebellion makes you numb to the world. What was Jonah doing during this time? The ship is about to break apart. The crew is scrambling just to survive, praying to their gods. What's Jonah doing? In verse 5 it says, "But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep." He was so asleep that in verse 6, the captain went to see him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we will not perish." This is something that I think we all need to be very much cognizant of. We become numb to the world through our rebellion. And I'll give you a great example. And this is an example in my life, and it's something that I need to work on. Many people have pointed out that sometimes I swear and I shouldn't as a Christian, and it's true. Swearing and cussing is something that I adopted over time in my youth. It is something that I picked up, especially as I became more and more understanding of internet culture, and it just became very simple for me to fall into. To the point that many words that I used to hate hearing, like the F-bomb, I used to hear that from a comedian or from a show, and I'd go, no, that's not cool. Now I drop it without thinking. It's a very small example, but we begin to grow numb and, well, we just don't care anymore. And there are other things about sin that do that too. After a while, you'll notice certain things. It's a funny thing. I was talking to this dude who for the longest time was an absolute porn addict. And he said one of the biggest problems with being a porn addict is you look at women in a very bad way. You'd stop seeing women as individuals, as people. You start looking at them as sex objects. And a girl who would have seemed very beautiful to you in your younger days, now you're like, she's not nearly as hot as the woman I saw in that one porno. When you steal, at first you're very concerned. You might feel guilty about who you're stealing from and how that's impacting them. But after a while, who cares? After a while, what's it matter? One of the reasons we don't realize how our sin impacts others is because we grow numb to the world and everyone in it. Jonah has become so numb through his rebellion, he doesn't even realize how much the ship is shaking. Rebellion makes us numb to the world. If you are in a position right now where you feel numb to the world, where you feel like what I'm saying might be resonating with you, I need you to take a few steps back and acknowledge, maybe I've been living in rebellion. Maybe I need to course correct. Maybe I need to fix this, get back on the right path. Because the fourth thing about rebellion, and the most important thing about rebellion, this is the thing. Guys, I want you to take this away. If you take nothing else away from today, take this away. In the heart of the rebellion, we may still find mercy. In the heart of rebellion, we may still find mercy. You're reading the book, what happens is the crew is scared out of their minds. They say, let's throw lots to decide who it is that's really doing this to us. The lots fall on Jonah. So they say, who are you? What's all this about? What's going on? And Jonah has to be honest. He says, I'm a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. And this terrified the crew. They're like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? What have you done? What have you done, man? They are scared out of their mind, but here comes the mercy. We're in verse 11. Watch this. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, what should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us? Verse 12, pick me up and throw me into the sea, he replied, and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you. Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried out to the Lord, please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man, for you, Lord, have done as you pleased. Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. It was a lot to read, but what did you notice there? Mercy. Mercy. Not just for Jonah, for the pagan crewmen. They said, okay, Jonah, all right, you've clearly messed up. You're running away from your God. What must we do? What do we have to do to fix this? And he says, throw me overboard. Now, here's what I find so funny about that. You know what Jonah could have done? He could have said, hold on, guys, I got this. And he could drop to his knees and say, God, I'm sorry for running away from you. I'm sorry I went the wrong way. We're going to turn the ship around. Please take this storm away, and we will turn the ship around right now. Don't you think God probably would have said, good boy, good job, and then moved the storm away? That's not what Jonah did. He didn't even bother to entertain that idea. The Bible does not say he tried to pray or ask God for forgiveness. He said, throw me overboard. And you know what that tells me he wanted to do? He wanted to die. Because this is once again his rebellion. Him saying, I would rather die than go to Nineveh. I would rather die than do what God wants me to do. So he said, throw me overboard, and the storm will pass because it is my fault this is happening. Now, he cared enough about the crew to say, hey guys, you know what? I'm going to save you guys. I'm going to help you guys out. Just throw me overboard. And what's funny is the crew didn't want to do it. They're like, no, we can't do that to you. And they tried to row back to shore, but the sea got even worse. And like, all right, we'll throw you overboard. Boom, they threw him overboard, and immediately the storm dies. But here's what's cool. Did you notice what the sailors did after that? Let me turn back to it. Verse 16, at this the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. Now here's what's crazy. If you read earlier, in verse 5, it says, all the sailors were afraid of the storm, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw cargo into the sea. So look at the change here. Back then, they were making prayers to their own gods, their own deities. But then after they saw the power of Jonah's God, they immediately dropped down and worshiped and made sacrifices to the Lord. Just how rebellion can impact those around us, like I said earlier, the mercy of God can impact those around us. God showed mercy on those sailors, and many of them were saved that night. Many of them came to God that night because they saw the power of God demonstrated in what happened with Jonah. In the heart of the rebellion, we may still find mercy. Now, here's the thing I want to teach you about mercy. We throw this word around a lot in the Christian lexicon, but many of you may not know what it means, so I want to give it a definition today. Mercy is not receiving what you deserve. Mercy is not receiving what you deserve. When I say have mercy on me, it means do not give me what I deserve. Now, What did the sailors and Jonah deserve? Jonah deserved punishment. He deserved punishment. The sailors were not in God's children. They were not obedient to God. They were pagans. And yet, God did not destroy them either. He could have. He could have said, the only one I'm here for is Jonah. The rest of you, whatever happens to you, happens to you. But he showed mercy on them. And through that, they were saved. And as for Jonah, he wanted to die. He threw himself into the sea, but God said, I'm not done with you. And he sent a fish to swallow him. And here's the crazy thing about that, guys. I really want you to take this away. Please, please, please take this away. Listen to me. Listen to me when I say this, okay? When we face storms of correction, God is not punishing us because he wants to destroy us. God punishes us because he wants to correct us. This, guys, this is the message of hope that I want to give you today. This is a message of hope that I want to leave you. No matter how deep into your rebellion you are, and let's face it, Jonah was super deep. He was so deep into his rebellion, he was on the suicide list. Jonah was ready to die for his rebellion. He was like, I am so not wanting to do what God wants me to do. I would rather die. Throw me into the sea. I want to die. They did, and God said, I don't want you to die, Jonah. I don't want to destroy you. I have a job for you. You don't understand what's happening here. You don't understand what I'm trying to do. And that's okay. That's okay you don't understand. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to educate you. But for you to understand, I need to correct you. This is going to hurt a little bit, but I need to correct you. And God can do the same thing in our life. You may be going through a storm right now and you don't understand why. You may be saying, God, why am I facing this storm? What have I done to deserve this? I don't understand. What am I supposed to do? And God can say the same thing to you. I know you don't understand. But I am not doing this because I want to destroy you. I'm doing this because I want to correct you. I'm doing this because I want to get you back on the right path. I'm doing this because I have a plan for you. You've been walking away from that plan for a long time. I want to get you back on the right path. Guys, for a long time, I lived in rebellion. I lived totally absent from God. I knew the Bible. I knew the way Christians were supposed to be. I understood what the gospel said, but I lived in rebellion anyway because I thought I knew better, and God had to correct me over the course of years. And sometimes he still has to correct me. Sometimes I still make major mistakes, because we all do. And when we do, God shows us mercy by correcting us. Guys, Jonah's message here is not a message of an angry God beating up his prophet for running away. Jonah's story is not a story of a giant fish who swallowed a guy. Jonah's story is about second chances. Jonah's story is about God correcting our rebellion. And in the heart of rebellion, in the heart of our sin, in the heart of our misbehavior, we can find mercy. And that is the message of hope. No matter how deep we're in, God will still show us his mercy and his abundant love. Guys, reading about this can just blow. Each time it blows my mind. It blows my mind to think about it. It blows my mind. And you know, we get caught up in that fish, guys. We get caught up in it. We're like, oh man, story of a guy getting swallowed by a fish. Isn't that crazy? But as I said last time, We get so caught up in the great fish, we lose sight of the great God. And God is at work in this story. God is at work in the life of Jonah. God is at work in the life of Jonah. I'm going to end on this. I want to close things out with this. If you are right now living in the heart of rebellion, maybe you've been rebelling for a while, or maybe you just started rebelling, or maybe all you've ever known is rebellion, I want you to know it is not too late. I want you to know that you can still find correction. I want you to know that you can still see the mercy of God in your life. Maybe you're going through a storm of correction right now, or maybe it's one of the other storms I mentioned. Maybe you're going through a storm of protection or progression. I want you to know, guys, that just because you're going through the storm doesn't mean you will be destroyed by God. It means that God is trying to get you back on the right path. It may mean that God is trying to get you back on the straight and narrow. And maybe he's trying to show you his abundant mercy. If you are wanting to know more about this and about God's love and his mercy and about what it looks like when God course corrects, I hope you guys will continue following this series. We're going to pick up again next week. Very, very excited to keep going with this. I hope you guys have enjoyed this series on Jonah so far. I am really enjoying it. I can't wait to get into the next chapter, because we're going to be talking about Jonah and his time in the fish and what he's doing and what he's praying. It is a big prayer, and I can't wait to look at it. Thank you guys so much. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys.